Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we review one of the absolute hitters of the whiskey world. That is Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof Whiskey. Run the video. Alright then folks, thank you for joining us for another new episode of the Whiskey Cove, where we will be reviewing pretty much a staple here in the Whiskey Cove, and that is Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Tennessee Whiskey. Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Tennessee Whiskey is a bottle that I've talked about a good amount on the channel, but we've never reviewed it. We've been doing this for about 2 years. We have over 50 whiskey reviews, which is awesome by the way, because that was the main reason why I wanted to set up the channel, was just to review whiskey. However, we haven't done this one, which is a little bit of a crying shame, and I apologize for people who subscribed in like the first or second week that we started the channel, because I've talked about this bottle so much that we haven't reviewed it. However, that will change here today. This bottle of whiskey cost me about $55, $60 about not a year or so ago. This is coming in at 64.9% ABV or 129.8 proof. This is a 750 milliliter bottle. This bottle is the same as the regular single barrel one and how it looks, but it's a little different because it has gold labeling on the front, where the regular single barrel has a lot of black. It has the bottling date, it has the barrel number, and then it has the R1 Rickhouse, so whatever that was there in Lynchburg, Tennessee. I think I just insulted 2 states there. Apologize. Cork pop. It's a little bit slack, but like I said, it has been open a little while here. It is a real cork with a wood top. We always appreciate that. Thank you, Jack Daniels. Overall impressions of the bottle, I kind of like it. It looks really fancy on the shelf. I like how they have these really nice glass ridges around here, and I love gold and black, gold and purple. Absolutely love them on whiskey bottles. I love how gold comes across. It just looks awesome. Really happy with the bottle. I think if I was rating the bottle, it's a 10 out of 10 already, right? However, that's not what we do here on the Whiskey Cove. Let's go ahead and take a look at the whiskey there in the glass. So ABV is 64.9%, like I said. So it's gonna look a little bit probably darker than just a regular like 80 proofer. How it looks in the glass, it looks somewhat darker. I would say like a lighter maple, or maybe like a darker amber, almost like a brown, with like a small little bit of red hue in it. It does leave lace in and around the glass. It doesn't look too thick or syrupy in the glass, as I just kind of roll it a little bit, but it is kind of leaving the oiliness sticking along the glass, which is always a really fun sign. Let's go in for a nose here. What a fantastic nose. You know, a lot of you folks probably know my palate by now. I do like the sweeter kind of dessert finish bourbons, like your Woodfords, your Mictas and Old Foresters I like. And this shares a lot of those kind of similar notes. And the biggest thing I can take away just off the bat here, there's not much proof coming through on the nose. I'm not really burning my face as I go in for nose, and it's like close to 65%. Getting little bananas, some beautiful vanillas there, pecans, like toasted pecans, toasted marshmallows, a real sweetness and syrupy sweetness, so much caramel sauce on this. This is like a dessert whiskey nose in every sense of the word. Maybe a small touch of cherry there as well. An absolute delight for the senses so far. Let's go in for a taster. Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof Single Barrel Tennessee Whiskey. Such a rich, oily mouthfeel. Coats the whole mouth. The whole mouth. It leaves no piece of your palate unfinished with any flavor. It coats it all. And not only does it coat it, it hugs it and just doesn't let go. Wow, such a great and long finish on this. You get a little bit of a Kentucky burn. You are drinking a 65% ABV whiskey, so you're gonna get that, okay? But it's not like overwhelming or like, taking you, it doesn't like step you back or it takes you back. It kind of brings everything together. First impressions, on the front end there, you get a punch of sweetness. Real nice butterscotch, sweet, vanilla, kind of caramel sweetness. All the kind of quintessential bourbon sweetnesses right on your tongue. Makes it really palatable off the bat there. Heat slowly creeps up and helps cut through that sweetness. You get a little bit of spice, not too much. This is again more about the sweeter notes there, but you get a little bit of a peppery spice there in kind of like the mid palate as the kind of heat continues to build up. But then that sweetness kind of continues through the whole whiskey, just making everybody just saying, whoa, 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 you know, don't get too up, don't get too angry, and you know, people simmer down a little bit, and it brings it all together very, very nicely. Let's go back in, let's go in for another taste here. Again, like toasted, like a Rice Krispie toasted Rice Krispie bar, if you like. Some of those really, really nice oak, like charred oak, like new, fresh oak barrel that has just been charred. I think I might have said this once on the channel, but if you do a tour of the Old Forester distillery in Louisville, they char a barrel right there in front of you, and then you can kind of stick your head in and smell the charred barrel. It's a very distinct note. It's such a beautiful note, like your fresh burnt wood, and it definitely has that char in this whiskey there as well. Really nice sweet oaky char with that kind of Rice Krispie bar note there, the sweetness of that marshmallow, that kind of cool whip kind of flavor. If you go to like a Dairy Queen, I think they have this ice cream that's called like a cheesecake, and you can have like a marshmallow thing in the middle of it where they poke a hole and fill it up with marshmallow. Like this really sweet marshmallow has some of that note there as well. The second pass didn't hit as hot on the kind of the Kentucky Hug, on the esophagus here, if you like. It became a lot more palatable for that reason. I'm not saying that the first time was hot. I felt like the first time was pretty well balanced, but this kind of just sat everything down just a little bit more. Great sweetness, great finish there as well. That just keeps on going. It continues with that kind of caramel sweetness and butterscotch sweetness. And that heat carries on through as well. Spices, like I said, a little bit of pepper spice, but not really anything outside of that. This is all like vanillas, oaks, and a caramel sweetness is phenomenal. People get banana from this, and I have on occasions. It depends on my palate. I feel like on the day of, I haven't eaten much today that can kind of distract from some of those flavors. But I'm not getting the banana today. I could see, like I said, I've tried it in the past. I'm getting a little bit of cherry, like a darker cherry, something like just like the old-fashioned cherries you get out of the syrup, something like that. They're more like a sweeter, darker cherry as opposed to like a bacon or a sour cherry. Really great notes coming from this whiskey here, and there's a reason why this is always a staple here in the Whiskey Cove. So with that being said, hopefully you've been able to gather some information from some of those tasting and nosing notes there. And of course, we do 2 grading scales on this channel. We do a value for money, A through F, and then a score of 100, 0 to 100. 0 being the worst, 100 being the best. The best 2 scores we've ever had on the channel are joint top, that is 98 and 98, I believe, which was the George T. Stagg 2023 or 2, and William Ruella as well. What great bottles there. Am I saying this is in the same ballpark? No, but it's pretty high up. So we will do value for money, A through F. It's gotta be an A, isn't it? A, value for money. How can it not be? You're never finding anything that's cask strength that is as good as this for that price point. Maybe some of the Buffalo Trace stuff like Stag, if you can find it for value for money. But I do think this is everything as good as Stag, and maybe even a little bit better. That could be a blind battle for the future. But the only problem with that is I do think they have different palates, so they'd be easy to pick out. So it wouldn't quite be a blind battle. Maybe we just need to do like a head-to-head. A, value for money, score out of 100. It's gotta be 92, right? I think it has to be. 92, yeah, I think this is a 92 bottle, which is pretty crazy, seeing as the other bottles in the 90s have been very, very hard to get. Bomberger's was in the 90s, Russell's Camp Nelson was in the 90s, and then those 2 bottles we mentioned, William Ruella and George T. Stagg, were at the height of the 90s, and we just had a new one to join the party. Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Tennessee whiskey. Who would have guessed? I would have guessed, because I already knew just how good this bottle was. If you can't find Stag, get this. If you can't find any hard to find cask strength bourbon, get this. Yes, this isn't a bourbon, this is a Tennessee whiskey, but you wouldn't know it. you wouldn't know it. Maybe you could tell by a little bit more of the sweetness that you get from this, but I get as much sweetness from this as I do from like an Old Forester. Yes, they are owned by both Brown-Forman, but you know, this is not a bourbon, but it kind of tastes exactly like a bourbon. Every year Jack Daniels files the paperwork for both the bourbon and Tennessee whiskey on these bottles, and they're also doing, they like the Jack Daniels 10, 12 bourbon, so that's probably like the same distillate as this stuff, but they just didn't charcoal filter that, and so they can call it bourbon. That would be my hunch, but I might not be 100% sure on that. So let me know down below if you've tried this, and if you haven't, what are you waiting for? You have to go out and get this bottle. $60, A, value for money, 92 out of 100. That's something that just doesn't happen every day here on the Whiskey Cove. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you are new around here, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and tell me what you think of this review as we drink through the world's whiskeys one glass at a time. Just wowza, right? 92 out of 100. Crazy. Cheers.